Here are 5 more underrated but fantastic feats in D&D. Knight of the Sword. Have you ever hit someone so hard that they got depression? Well, that's what this feat does. Firstly, you increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1. But more importantly, once per turn, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack roll, they need to make a wisdom save or become frightened of you until the end of your next turn. I always get a fuzzy feeling inside when a feat gives martial characters some utility, and this does that. Even better though, is that this feat has a fail case. Even if your target passes that wisdom saving throw, they still have disadvantage on their next attack roll on their turn. This is a wicked design space that I am amazed hasn't been explored more. This isn't a suck or save effect, this is a suck or suck even harder effect. You can do a demoralizing strike a number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus. Obviously, this feat is amazing for spellcasting martial characters like Blade Singers, Hexblades, and Eldritch Knights because it buffs your utility and it buffs your spellcasting stat. But the real power here is to put this on a Conquest Paladin because their level 7 feature reduces the speed of all frightened creatures within 10 feet of you to 0. So you hit them with this and they are literally scared stiff. They cannot run. One point to mention, there is a prerequisite to taking this feat, the Squire of Solamnia feat, which you get for free with the Knight of Solamnia background. That feat is very mid, so the question is it worth locking down your background just to have access to this feat? The answer is yes. It brings a ton of utility to martial classes who honestly really need it. Telepathic. Okay. Telepathic is broken. Seriously, this goes wild. It gets you a +1 in intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, and lets you telepathically speak to a creature you can see within 60 feet. It also lets you cast Detect Thoughts once per day, and GMs love that spell. It's great for roleplay, and it lets you dump a load of exposition on your players. The main problem with the telepathic feat is that it's one way. You can talk to a creature telepathically, but they can't talk back to you. It's got niche uses for druids, letting you chat to people while wild-shaped, but really, it's a roleplay focused tool without any lethal applications. Or at least you would think so, until you realize this lets you telepathically speak to any creature you can see. There is no saving throw to resist this effect, so there is no way for the target to stop you from talking to them, which is disgusting if you get creative. How about you just follow someone around and scream in their head all day? Just scream. With the Warlock Invocation aspect of the moon, you don't need to sleep. You can follow someone 24/7 and just scream obscenities in their mind. Keep an eye on them via a Find Familiar spider if they ever try to hide from you. There really is no escape. That's horrifying. It is untraceable torture, and I think it could be lethal. I mean, if they can never sleep, they will eventually die of exhaustion. And this is untraceable. When you speak telepathically to a target, they don't automatically know that it's you talking.
Anytime we introduce people with telepathy, I always think of the utility of it, but also how kind of creepy it would be if suddenly there's a voice in my head. You know, where is it coming from?
But we can go so much darker. What about if you grab the actor feat, letting you perfectly replicate the voice of someone else? Then you track down a noble or a guard, and you enter their mind, perfectly emulating the voice of their dead wife. That would mess someone up, right? You could pretend to be a ghost or a god and get them to do stuff for you. Terrify them so they flee from their post, or get them to leave an offering to a god that you can steal. Yes, it's unethical, sure, but it's really funny. I just love feats that encourage my players to roleplay creatively, and telepathy is god's tier at that. And don't sleep on that +1 to mental ability scores, either.
Greetings, adventurers! I am an angel, and I... Celestial! Kill it! Wait. What are you doing? He was a good guy! Do you have any idea what epic magic items we can craft with Celestial Wing? What are you talking about? There is no crafting system in this game! Oh, yes there is! In Ryoko's Guide, there's a full harvesting and crafting system with scores of magic items, each with multiple rarity variants to craft. Well, sure, that's awesome, but you killed an angel. You're still going to hell. Oh, that would be sweet. You have any idea what we could make with devil horns? Right on. Now, Wizard, grab his liver. Oh!
Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms is out now on Kickstarter and adds a ton of incredible new expansions to 5e. New battle mechanics, enhancements for martial characters, combo attack mechanics, new feats, skills, items, and ninja prosthetics inspired by Sekiro. Plus, over 25 new races and subclasses, 5 full adventures, creature tokens, a dragon mini, a whole new element bender class inspired by Avatar, and over 50 terrifying new monsters. Check out the free downloadable material on the Ryoko's Kickstarter page, and back now. Link in description. Observant. Observant is another roleplay focused feat that goes so hard with just a little bit of creativity. It gives a +1 to either wisdom or intelligence, and if you can see a creature while it's talking, you can read its lips. This is silent communication between party members, or just a great spying tool. In particular, this is hilarious on an eagle totem barbarian, letting you read someone's lips from a mile away. Never talk crap about an eagle totem barbarian. They are always watching, and they get mad like super easily. But the real power of this feat is maxing out your passive perception and investigation. Observant gives you a +5 in both of those abilities. Slap this feat on a pallid elf, rogue, or bard with an 18 in intelligence or wisdom, and you are rocking a passive perception or passive investigation of 25 at level 5. Nothing is ever sneaking up on you, and you can solve entire mysteries passively. Like, you just walk into a crime scene and boom, you know everything that has ever happened there. For players who are too cool to roll dice, bumping your passive checks is actually a really powerful and stylish thing to do. And once again, never sleep on those feats that give you a +1 to one of your ability scores. Gunner. Okay, enough with the smart-ass feats. What if guns? Gunner grabs you a +1 in dexterity, proficiency with firearms, and lets you ignore the loading property of firearms. If your dream was to machine gun with a musket, somehow, this feat lets you do that. It also lets you ignore the disadvantage imposed by being within 5 feet of a creature, because there is nothing more embarrassing than holding a gun to someone's head, pulling the trigger, and missing, which is a thing in D&D. Some warlocks pick up the crossbow expert feat purely because it stops them having disadvantage on their close range eldritch blasts. This feat does the exact same thing, except it also gives you a +1 to your dexterity, so it has a niche, even in campaigns where guns don't exist. The real value here, though, is it puts gun proficiency in the hands of classes that have no business having a gun. I've mentioned before the fabled gun-monk combo. Because you're proficient with firearms, it can act as your monk's dedicated weapon, letting you attack twice with a gun and still flurry of blows afterwards. Or you can just blast away for decent damage at long range, which is something that monk builds really appreciate. Monks also get the focused aim feature, letting you bump your attack rolls if you do ever miss. More importantly though, thanks to the monk deflect missiles feature, you can shoot yourself in the head, catch the bullet, and then throw it at someone else. Yes, it's not optimal, but come on, that's badass. And finally, for any fighters or rangers who want to use guns, this feat is straight up essential, letting you use your extra attack even with loading firearms. Honorable mention, Strixhaven Initiate. Strixhaven Initiate is a funky little feat that works a lot like Magic Initiate, but is better usually. Basically, you pick one of the 5 colleges from the Strixhaven setting, and you get 2 cantrips associated with that college, as shown in this table. Then you also get 1 first level spell from the spellcasting class associated with that college, also shown in this table. The advantage this has over Magic Initiate is it lets you choose your spellcasting modifier. It doesn't come from the class of the spells that you pick. And you also get to cast the spells that you pick up with any other spell slots you might have. Remember, just because a feat references a place in one setting doesn't mean you can't take it if you're in another setting. You don't need to have attended Strixhaven to take this feat. You could have just studied a magical curriculum or learned from a master wizard. Magic Initiate is already a great feat, so anything that's similar but arguably better is definitely worth considering. Revenant Blade. I love any feat that gives players so much gameplay depth that it's basically an entire build on its own. And this feat is that. Revenant Blade gives you proficiency with the double-bladed scimitar, a weapon that deals 2d4 damage on a hit. And when you attack with it, you can attack again as a bonus action, but it only deals 1d4. It's sort of like how the Polearm Master Feat lets you deal 1d4 extra damage as a bonus action with polearms. This is better than normal 2-weapon fighting because it lets you add your damage modifier to the bonus action attack. This feat also gives the Revenant Blade the finesse property while you wield it, letting you sneak attack with it, letting you use your dexterity for attacks and damage, and I think making it the only two-handed finesse weapon in the game. Finally, just by holding the Revenant Blade while you have this feat, you get +1 AC. So sure, if you're a class that has proficiency in shields, you're giving up 1 point of AC to use this rather than a rapier and a shield, but instead, you get a higher damage weapon than a rapier, and you get a bonus action attack. This is probably optimal for a close quarters focused dex-based fighter, ranger, or rogue, plus it's got all that juicy flavor. There is one restriction. This feat is labeled as elf only. The reason being that elves traditionally use these weapons, and you have to be descended from a scimitar master because somehow some of their talent passes through their blood to you. This is a stupid restriction. There is absolutely nothing broken about using this feat on a race other than elves. Honestly, if one of my players came and said they wanted to take this feat instead of the typical busted sharpshooter feat for their ranger, I would be over the freaking moon. I recommend you let any race take this feat, but obviously check with your GM first, or just, play an elf. Remember to check out Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms, link on screen somewhere and also down below. There's free playtest races, rules, and subclasses on the Kickstarter page to check out, and every bit of support matters because it gets us closer to the next stretch goal. And yeah, that's basically all I got. Remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and I'll see you next time.